The house smelled of roasted turkey, baked macaroni and cheese, and candied yams. The big oak dining table was set with fine china that my mother, Evelyn, only brought out on special occasions. It was supposed to be a joyful evening. My father, Henry, had invited close relatives and a few church friends for dinner. Everyone came dressed in their Sunday best, with laughter echoing through the living room as the little children ran around with plates of cornbread in their hands. I had just turned 21 a few days earlier, and I felt proud sitting at that table as a grown woman. My name is Vanessa Carter, and for years, I believed I was the beloved only daughter of Henry and Evelyn. But that night, my life shattered. We had just finished the main course, and people were sipping sweet tea, coffee, and wine while dessert was being served. Out of nowhere, my father cleared his throat. His deep voice silenced the room, the kind of voice that made people listen whether they wanted to or not. He tapped his glass with a fork and said, "Family, there is something I need to say tonight. Something I should have said a long time ago." Everyone leaned forward. I thought he was going to bless the family with one of his long speeches about unity, or maybe announce a business deal. Instead, he turned his eyes toward me and said slowly, "Vanessa, you are not my biological daughter. You are adopted." The fork slipped from my hand and clattered against my plate. Gasps filled the room. My mother's face went pale, and my cousins whispered among themselves. I felt the ground disappear beneath me. The room was heavy, like the air had been sucked out. I sat frozen in my chair, staring at my father as though he were a stranger. "What?" I whispered, but my voice cracked so softly that nobody heard me. My Aunt Deborah, who always had a big mouth, leaned forward and asked, "Henry, is this some kind of joke?" My father shook his head, his eyes stern and unapologetic. "It is not a joke. Vanessa deserves to know the truth. Evelyn and I adopted her when she was only 2 weeks old." All eyes turned toward my mother. She looked down, clutching her napkin until her knuckles turned white. My heart pounded. My stomach twisted. I wanted her to deny it, to tell me it was all a misunderstanding. But when she finally looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears, and I knew it was true. "Baby," she said softly, reaching for my hand. "We wanted to tell you sooner, but we didn't know how." I pulled my hand away. The whole table stared at me like I was some mystery they had just discovered. Some of my cousins smirked, others looked shocked, and a few simply kept eating as though family secrets were common seasoning. I couldn't take it. I stood up so fast that my chair screeched against the wooden floor. "Why would you tell me this here? In front of everybody?" My voice trembled with both rage and humiliation. No one answered. So I ran out of the dining room, past the curious eyes, out into the night air where the street lights glowed dimly. I sat on the porch steps, my arms wrapped around myself as tears poured down. The cold breeze kissed my skin, but it couldn't cool the fire burning inside me. Adopted. My whole life had been a lie. I remembered being a little girl, asking why I didn't look much like my parents. My skin tone was a shade darker than my father's, my eyes a little wider than my mother's. They always told me, "Baby, you got your looks from your great-grandma, rest her soul." I believed it. I never questioned again. Now it all made sense. The door creaked open behind me. My cousin Marcus stepped out. He was a year older than me, tall and lanky, with a habit of speaking before he thought. "Yo, Ness, you good?" I glared at him. "Do I look good to you?" My whole life just exploded. He sat down beside me, scratching his head. Man, Uncle Henry wild for that. Dropping a bomb like that at the table. I don't even know what to say. "You could say nothing," I snapped. He raised his hands in surrender. Ait. Just, you still family, Ness. Don't matter what blood say. But it did matter. It mattered more than I could explain. Who was I? Where did I come from? Why did they lie to me for 21 years? My mother appeared at the door, her face streaked with tears. "Vanessa, please, let me explain." I stood up, shaking my head. "Not tonight, Mama. Not tonight." And I walked away into the dark street, not knowing where my feet were taking me. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling. The walls of my room suddenly felt strange, as though they didn't belong to me. I thought about the baby pictures on the dresser, the framed family portraits in the hallway, the birthday cakes, the Christmas gifts. Were they all just covers for a secret? My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from relatives. "Cousin, are you okay? Don't let it get to you, girl. We always knew something was off." I threw the phone across the bed. I didn't want pity. I wanted answers. Around midnight, my father knocked on my door. "Vanessa, can I come in?" I didn't answer. He opened the door anyway. He stood there in his robe, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "I know you're hurt, but I couldn't keep the truth from you any longer. You're grown now. You deserve to know." I sat up, my eyes burning. "Why tonight? Why like that?" He sighed. "Sometimes, truth don't wait for perfect timing. It was eating me alive, keeping it from you." I wanted to scream, but instead I asked the question that haunted me most. Who are my real parents? He hesitated, then said, "We don't know much. All we know is that your birth mother was a young woman who couldn't raise you. She left you at the adoption agency, and we brought you home." My chest tightened. A nameless, faceless woman had given birth to me, then disappeared. So I'll never know who I really am? He lowered his head. "Maybe one day, if you're ready to search." I turned my face away. "Please leave me alone, Daddy." He closed the door quietly, and I cried until my pillow was soaked. Morning light streamed through my window, but it didn't bring peace. I walked into the kitchen where my mother was frying bacon. She looked up at me with weary eyes. "Baby, I know you're angry, but please don't shut me out." I sat at the table, arms crossed. "You lied to me my whole life." She placed a plate in front of me. "We didn't lie. We just didn't tell you the full truth. You are our daughter. Adoption doesn't change that." "But it changes me," I muttered. She sat across from me, her hands trembling. "Vanessa, I prayed for a child for years. Doctors told me I couldn't have one. Then God brought you into our lives. From the moment I held you, you were mine. Nothing will ever change that." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "I need to know who I am, Mama. I need to know where I came from." She nodded slowly. "If that's what you want, I'll help you. We'll find out together." Her words gave me a small spark of hope, but also fear. Because searching for the truth meant opening doors that might never be closed again. News traveled fast. By Sunday morning, half the neighborhood knew. At church, I felt eyes following me, whispers brushing against my back like cold fingers. "She adopted? For real? Explains why she don't look like Evelyn and Henry. Poor child, must be hard." I walked into the sanctuary with my head high, but inside I was drowning. My best friend Tasha slid into the pew beside me. She leaned close and whispered, "Girl, I heard what happened. You good?" I shook my head slightly. "I don't even know anymore." She squeezed my hand. "Don't let them define you. Blood don't make family, love does." Her words comforted me a little, but when the pastor spoke about truth setting us free, I couldn't help but wonder, was freedom supposed to feel this painful? After church, I confronted my parents again. "I want to see the adoption papers," I demanded. They exchanged nervous glances, but my father finally went to his office and pulled out a folder. Inside were yellowed documents, stamped and signed, with my name, Vanessa Carter, typed neatly across the top. But what shook me most was the section labeled birth mother. It only had a first name, Angela. No last name. No address. No details about my father. That's all we were given, Mama said softly. Just Angela? I muttered, clutching the paper. How do I find a woman with only a first name? Daddy put a hand on my shoulder. If you want, I can reach out to the agency again. Maybe they have more records. I nodded, though anger still burned inside me. Do that, please. Later that week, Aunt Deborah stopped by. She always loved drama, and this was her season. She pulled me aside in the kitchen and whispered, Baby, you know some of us suspected for years. Your mama never had no belly, never showed signs of being pregnant. Folks talked, but we kept quiet out of respect. Her words felt like salt on a wound. So everybody knew but me? She shrugged. Secrets don't stay buried forever. When she left, I confronted my mother again. You lied not just to me, but to everyone else. They all knew something wasn't right. Mama's eyes filled with tears. I was just trying to protect you. I didn't want you to feel less than. I snapped. But now I do. Our voices rose, and Daddy had to step in. Enough. Yelling won't fix nothing. But the damage was done. The house no longer felt like home. That night, I went to Tasha's apartment. She made me tea and let me cry into her couch cushions. Listen, she said gently, you got two choices. Either let this break you, or let it push you to find the truth. I sniffled. But what if the truth hurts worse than the lie? She leaned back, crossing her arms. Girl, the truth already hurt you. What more you got to lose? She was right. Sitting in pain wasn't helping. I had to take control of my story. The next morning, I dressed in a simple blouse and jeans and convinced my father to take me to the adoption agency. The building looked old, with peeling paint and a faded sign that read Southside Family Services. Inside, a woman at the front desk greeted us with a polite smile. How can I help you? I explained who I was and handed her my papers. She looked them over, typing into her computer. After a few moments, she frowned. I'm sorry, but most of our records from that year were sealed. We can only release them if the birth mother left permission. Did she? I asked, my heart pounding. The woman hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. She left a note. I gasped. Can I see it? She disappeared into a back room, returning with a small envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a short letter, written in shaky handwriting. To my daughter Vanessa, I'm sorry I cannot raise you. My name is Angela. One day, if you want to find me, look in Jackson, Mississippi. I will always love you. My knees nearly buckled. Mississippi. I had a place to start. On the ride home, silence filled the car. My father gripped the wheel tightly, his jaw clenched. You really thinking of going after her? He finally asked. Yes, I said firmly. She's my mother. His knuckles whitened. We're your parents. Don't forget that. I softened my tone. I'll never forget. But I can't ignore this, Daddy. I need to know who she is. He didn't respond, but I could feel his disapproval like a storm cloud hanging over us. That evening, Mama cornered me in the kitchen. Vanessa, please think about what you're doing. What if she rejects you? What if she doesn't want to be found? I met her pleading eyes. And what if she does? What if she's been waiting all these years? Tears welled in her eyes. You're my baby. I can't lose you. You're not losing me, I whispered. I'm just trying to find myself. Our conversation ended in silence, both of us too broken to continue. That night, I called Tasha. I found her. She's in Jackson, Mississippi. Tasha squealed. Girl, that's big. When we leaving? I blinked. We? Of course. You ain't going alone. Road trip, baby. Her excitement made me laugh for the first time in days. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I felt. I started saving money, packing a small bag, and planning routes. Jackson wasn't that far, but emotionally, it felt like crossing an ocean. By afternoon, we rolled into Jackson. The air felt different, slower, heavier, like the whole city moved at its own rhythm. We checked into a cheap motel with peeling wallpaper and a flickering neon sign that buzzed all night. I sat on the bed, clutching Angela's letter. Where do we even start? Tasha pulled out her laptop. We Google, we ask around, we hit up every library, church, and community center if we have to. Her determination made me laugh. You should have been a detective. She winked. Girl, I just love a good mystery. The next morning, we headed to the county records office. The clerk, an older black woman with glasses perched on her nose, scanned the name. Angela, There are several Angelas in our system, but without a last name, it's tricky. My heart sank. Is there any way to narrow it down? Maybe connected to adoptions around 2000. The clerk tapped her fingers thoughtfully. There was one Angela Williams who placed a child for adoption that year. Lives over on Beechwood Drive. I nearly collapsed. A name. An address. Thank you, I whispered, gripping Tasha's arm. The neighborhood on Beechwood Drive was quiet, with small houses lined up like tired soldiers. My stomach flipped as we pulled into the driveway of a faded yellow house with a crooked mailbox. Ready? Tasha asked. I nodded, though my legs trembled. We walked up the steps and knocked. A woman opened the door. She looked to be in her 40s, with tired eyes and skin darker than mine. She froze when she saw me, her lips parting as if she'd seen a ghost. Vanessa, she whispered. My heart stopped. Angela. She covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her face. We stood there in silence for a moment before she pulled me into a tight hug. Her body shook with sobs. My baby girl. I felt stiff at first, unsure if I belonged in her arms. But something deep inside me, something beyond logic, softened, and I let myself cry against her shoulder. She pulled back, cupping my face. I prayed every day that you'd find me. I never stopped loving you. I choked on my words. Why did you give me away? Her smile faded into sorrow. I was just a teenager, baby. Poor, alone, with no support. I wanted you to have the life I couldn't give. Her words pierced me, painful, yet strangely healing. Angela invited us inside. The house was small but cozy, filled with family pictures, some cracked with age. She poured sweet tea and sat across from me. I got married years after you were born, but it didn't last. I got 2 younger sons now, your brothers. Brothers? I echoed, stunned. She smiled sadly. Yeah, they know about you. I always told them they had a sister out there somewhere. A mix of joy and confusion swirled in me. I wasn't an only child after all. That evening, 2 teenage boys came home. Angela introduced them. Caleb, 16, tall with braids, and Jordan, 14, shy with wide brown eyes. This is your sister, Vanessa, Angela said gently. The boys stared at me like they weren't sure what to do. Finally, Caleb grinned. Dang, I got a big sister? That's wild. Jordan mumbled, hi, before hiding behind his mother. I laughed nervously. For the first time in days, my heart felt light. Later that night, after the boys went to bed, I asked the question burning in my chest. Who's my father? Angela's face darkened. She hesitated before speaking. Your father was a man named Marcus. He was older than me, too old. He wasn't ready to be a dad, and when I told him I was pregnant, he disappeared. Anger surged through me. So he never even tried? She shook her head, tears in her eyes. No, baby. I'm sorry. My stomach twisted. Half my identity was still a shadow. While I was bonding with Angela, things back home grew tense. My cousin Marcus called me one night. Yo, Ness, Uncle Henry ain't talking to nobody. He mad as hell you went looking for that woman. Auntie Evelyn crying every day. Guilt stabbed me. I didn't mean to hurt them. I just needed answers. Well, they hurting too. Don't be surprised if things ain't the same when you get back. His words haunted me. Was I losing one family while finding another? On my last night in Jackson, Angela sat with me on the porch. The crickets sang, and the moonlight painted her face in silver. I know this is overwhelming, she said softly. But I want you to know you belong here too. You're my daughter, always will be. Tears filled my eyes. I feel like I'm being ripped in two. My parents back home think I betrayed them. But being here feels real. Like a missing piece finally clicked. She squeezed my hand. You don't have to choose. Love can stretch between both worlds. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The drive back from Jackson felt heavier than the one going there. I had found answers, but I also carried new burdens. When I stepped back into my parents' house, the air was thick with silence. My father sat in his chair, arms crossed, eyes cold. My mother stood by the kitchen door, her face weary. You found her? My father asked flatly. Yes, I whispered. Her name is Angela. She's alive. She has 2 sons. I met them. Mama's eyes filled with tears, but Daddy's face hardened even more. So now what? You moving in with them? Daddy, stop, I pleaded. I'm not replacing you. I just wanted the truth. But he got up and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Later that night, Mama sat beside me on the couch. She looked so small, so fragile. I prayed every day that this moment would never come, she whispered. Because I knew once you met her, I'd lose a piece of you. You'll never lose me, I said, holding her hand. You're my mother. You raised me, loved me, taught me everything. She shook her head sadly. But now your heart is split. I hugged her tightly. Mama, love isn't limited. It grows. I can love you and still want to know her. She sobbed into my shoulder, and for the first time since the dinner party, I felt like we were healing. But Daddy wasn't healing. He barely spoke to me for days. At dinner, he ate in silence. When I tried to talk, he turned on the TV. Finally, I confronted him. Daddy, why are you shutting me out? He glared at me. Because you don't understand what I gave up for you. I worked double shifts, broke my back, sacrificed everything so you could have a good life. And now you chasing after a woman who threw you away. His words cut deep. She didn't throw me away. She gave me a chance. And we gave you everything, he shouted. I stood there trembling. You're right. You did. And I'll always be grateful. But I can't erase the other half of me just to make you comfortable. He turned away, and I walked upstairs in tears. I called Tasha that night. She listened quietly, then said, Girl, your daddy hurting. It ain't just about Angela. It's about fear. He's scared he'll lose the spot he fought for in your heart. I sighed. But I keep telling him he won't. Sometimes words ain't enough, she said gently. You gotta show him. Her advice stuck with me. Maybe my father needed proof that my love wasn't divided, just expanded. I sat down and wrote Angela a long letter. Meeting you changed my life. I feel whole in a way I never did before. But please understand, I can't turn my back on the parents who raised me. I want you in my life, but it has to be in balance. I hope you can accept that. When I mailed the letter, I felt a strange peace. I had chosen honesty. A week later, Daddy finally snapped. You know what, Vanessa? Maybe you should have stayed in Mississippi. Maybe that's where you belong. I froze, my chest tightening. Do you really mean that? He wouldn't look at me. Mama gasped. Henry, don't you dare say that to our child. I stood, tears streaming down my face. If that's how you feel, maybe I should leave. I grabbed my bag and walked out, not knowing where I was going, only knowing I couldn't stay. I spent the night at Tasha's place. She made me tea, tucked me into her couch, and said, sometimes, family gotta break before it bends. Her words echoed in my mind. Was this the breaking point my family needed to bend toward healing? The next morning, I heard a knock at Tasha's door. When I opened it, Daddy stood there, looking tired, his eyes red. I couldn't sleep, he admitted. I kept hearing your voice in my head. Baby, I was wrong. I swallowed hard, tears filling my eyes. Do you even want me here, Daddy? He stepped inside, his shoulders slumping. Of course I do. I don't know how to share you. But I realize now, if I push you away, I'll lose you for real. I hugged him, sobbing into his chest. You'll never lose me. And for the first time since the dinner party, he hugged me back with all his strength. In the weeks that followed, things slowly healed. Daddy softened, Mama stopped crying so much, and I kept in touch with Angela through letters and phone calls. One Sunday, we all sat together, me, Mama, Daddy. I showed them a picture Angela had mailed of Caleb and Jordan. They look like good boys, Mama said softly. Daddy nodded. As long as you remember where home is, I can live with it. I smiled. Home is right here. Always. Months later, we hosted another family dinner. This time, no secrets, no lies, just laughter, music, and love. I looked around the table at my parents, my cousins, and thought about Angela and my brothers in Mississippi. My story was no longer about being adopted. It was about being loved in more than one way by more than one family. When my father raised his glass, he said, to family, by blood, by love, by choice. May we never take any of it for granted. Everyone clinked glasses, and for the first time, I felt whole. Because I wasn't just adopted. I was chosen. Twice.